A presentation on the question of why Ted Kaczynski-like solution returned to more simple, small communities and an anti-accelerationist tack would not be sufficient. So I won't say that I've fully faced up to this question myself. I'm going on my sense that Heidegger is offering us good guidance and attempting at the same time to get to a position where I can confront the question myself more directly. So in this sense, one could say I'm in a this presentation is in a halfway house. I'm not simply saying this is the truth, but I'm saying this is what looks to me like the considerations one should have. Just as in Aquinas, or in Aquinas we get the disputation version where he gives sets of arguments. Although in the case of Aquinas, then he says this argument seems better to me, but he also at the same time says here's the toolbox or the instrumentum for anyone to set up a theological discourse. One can say that this medieval mode of disputation, which can be called that, is something like the continuation of the Socratic style of dialectic, or usually called Platonic style of dialectic, back and forth, which originally had its footing in Socrates actually making ad hominem arguments, not in the current acceptation of ad hominem, meaning in the vernacular in English, usually somebody has insulted me, they've done the ad hominem fallacy, but ad hominem in the sense of arguing to something that a man actually, man taken in the general sense of human being, actually holds to be true, but usually under the notion that this was merely gained by experience. If somebody has an experience, they become sure about something, but of course the experience is usually limited by n number of factors, and also people clasp to their experiences, no matter how stupid, by a natural rule, and dialectic is meant to break that up by showing that what we think we know through experience, often we can demonstrate to ourselves through thinking it through, clearly has deep contradictions within it, which where we're invading ourselves with those contradictions, and then we're stimulated to change our views. I think Tucker Carlson, for instance, I despise Tucker Carlson because I think he's liberal, all too liberal. His view is anybody who has a stupid conviction based on experience, or what they believe their experience to be, their imagination basically, that justifies everything, no matter how stupid the conviction, as long as you're at risk somehow, as long as you have how do they put that, your foot in the game, as long as you have something at risk. I forget the commonplace phrase for expressing that. Then everything is forgiven. It doesn't matter that you're doing something evil. It just matters that you have a conviction. So that's totally wrong. So that's why we have to acknowledge when we don't really have a certainty, and when we're actually not acting on conviction but out of dumb stupidity and due to making a concession with reality, and then dressing it up as though it were some kind of doing the liberal thing and dressing it up as though it was some kind of beautiful virtuous thing. So let's look at the Heidegger. So the Heideggerian side is there's this thing called the technological essence, and we have to confront it. The Kaczynski side is let's just stop and not do any more technology and build these smaller communities. So I think the problem is that we can't. The just stop is a total fantasy, because what the technological essence really means is not. It's not just that it's a fantasy from the de facto perspective. Like, yes, we could imagine just stopping doing any more technology. It seems implausible because people are still going to pursue things because there's military expediencies in play, and et cetera, et cetera. But we could, sensu stricto, we could directly imagine a total anti-accelerationist view, a Kaczynskiist view. But the problem is it's an absolutely morbid notion. It's that there we have there would still be this virulently impudent essence there. So what does that consist of? What do I mean? This is what Locke was. So today, for instance, there's hardly any study devoted to Locke's disputations, or usually called his treatise, but they might be better called disputations and then brought into comparison with earlier stuff like Thomas, where somebody's arguing both sides of a case back and forth. Although in the form of treaties like Aristotle wrote. And then sort of, again, linking back to the origins and the in the ad hominem discussions in the Socratic sense. I think that's a good way to sort of apprehend what Locke's still doing. Rather than today when people just have these stupid convictions and they think that's so wonderful. And then they claim to be in debates where debate just means trying to make the other person look bad, in the sense that Trump makes people look bad, which is a sub-rational enterprise. Okay, so what does Locke have to argue about that's not like topical today? It's the fact that he had to argue with the religious conviction that virtue and vice exist, therefore God exists, good and bad exist, and that the natural and certain versions of natural law, and not to mention divine law. And also he still had to confront the people that used holy text or revealed text as argument. Now, the revealed text is still used as argument today. That's not really the main point. The main point is that we're under the dominance. So I would say just as in China, you still have the Fox religions, you still have all the things that are not usually mentioned when one mentions Buddhism, the scholarly tradition, which, because Matteo Ricci sort of gave a misleading impression, we call Confucianism. Confucius was one guy, he actually existed, but he was part of a broad scholarly tradition, which was sort of misleadingly has been given to us by Matteo Ricci as Confucianism and as the Confucian tradition, just sort of accidentally naming it after that one guy who was, however, a prominent part of that tradition. And Taoism. Beside from those three big ones, one of them coming in, of course, from India, there's all these sort of, as it were, deeper traditions. It's funny, it makes me think of that fact they found somebody somewhere in Germany who had been living had a neighbor, and both he and the neighbor had families that had been living in the same area for, I think, 30,000 years. So there's some things that somehow have a life apart from the national history, I guess. And so in that way, just as the Fox religion still flourish in certain parts of China, I think in a lot of America there is tradition of arguing through biblical text, citing text, and understanding the concepts of the Bible as a mode of arguing politics. And of course, it has other meanings, even if it doesn't play. But the point is, it doesn't play a role in the main, in the elite discourse very much. Maybe a little bit. Yes, I know some people will tell me I'm talking nonsense with the Israel lobby and the Moshe is coming, and there's something to that, I admit. But generally, at least in the university, the way arguments are produced, of course, is not chiefly through the Bible, except that the Bible has a good argument and then it's a mode to present it. But I think the larger way I would frame it is Locke's point of view is the following. There's to sort of merge it in with one of Leo Strauss's examples. This question, there's the natural law, there's the question whether the law is adequately promulgated so that people can follow it, and the natural law is things like that human sacrifice is wrong, or that cannibalism is wrong. Strauss is like the example of cannibalism.